Chris Sizemore. Imagine waking up one day and realizing that parts of your life, conversations, actions, even years of time feel missing, as if someone else lived them instead of you. This was the experience of Chris Costner Sizemore, one of the most well-known cases linked to what was once called multiple personality disorder, now known as Dissociative Identity Disorder, or DID. Chris Sizemore was born in 1927 in the United States. From a young age, she experienced severe trauma, including frightening accidents and emotional stress during childhood. As she grew older, Chris began to show puzzling symptoms: memory gaps, sudden changes in behavior, different voices, preferences, and attitudes, periods of time she could not remember. Doctors struggled to understand what was happening. The discovery of multiple identities. In the early 1950s, psychiatrists treating Chris discovered that she appeared to have separate identities, each with its own personality, memories, and behaviors. Some identities were calm and quiet. Others were confident, angry, or playful. At the time, this condition was called multiple personality disorder. Psychologists believed that these identities formed as a way to cope with trauma. When experiences were too overwhelming, the mind protected itself by separating them into different parts. Chris Sizemore's case became widely known after it inspired the book and film The Three Faces of Eve, released in 1957. The story described three main personalities: Eve, white; Eve, black. Jane. The film helped introduce the public to the idea of multiple identities, but it also oversimplified Chris's experience. In reality, Chris later revealed that she had more than 20 identities, not just 3. Chris spent many years in therapy, working to understand and integrate her identities. Integration means bringing the different parts of the self together into one unified sense of identity. Her journey was long and difficult. Later in life, Chris explained that public attention sometimes made her recovery harder. She felt her story had been taken out of her control. In 1977, she published her own autobiography, I'm Eve, and later, A Mind of My Own, in 1989, where she told her story in her own words. Chris Sizemore's case sits at the center of major debates in psychology. Some psychologists argue that DID is a real response to severe trauma. Others suggest that media attention and therapist influence may sometimes shape how symptoms appear. Chris herself insisted that her condition was real, and that understanding it helped her heal. Chris Sizemore lived into her 70s and passed away in 2016. Her story helped psychology explore important questions. How does trauma affect identity? Can the mind protect itself by separating experiences? At its heart, Chris Sizemore's story reminds us that the mind can respond to pain in extraordinary ways. What may look confusing from the outside can be a form of survival on the inside. So, the next time you hear about identity, memory, or trauma, remember this. One woman's struggle in the 1950s helped psychology understand how deeply experiences can shape the self, and why compassion, care, and careful listening matter just as much as diagnosis.
If you enjoyed our channel, please click subscribe